Every day, hundreds of people gather in a makeshift worship center on the outskirts of Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. They profess their Judaism in prayers, pictures, and words. They're hoping to be heard most immediately by authorities in Israel, which they call the Promised Land. Many left Spartan farm lives in the rural north of this ancient East African nation and moved to the city years ago in hopes that they, like thousands before them, would be taken to Israel.
Our
members are suffering. They are destitute. They don't have places to sleep.
I come to follow God's word. He said, "As I disperse you, I shall bring you together." Because of that, I want to go back to the Jewish home.
Their pleas have fallen mostly on skeptical ears, even though more than 75,000 Ethiopians, including many relatives of these people, were accepted in recent years into Israel. Their acceptance into Israeli society, however, has been difficult. Many in Israel's religious leadership have questioned whether the Ethiopians are truly Jewish. Many were subject to conversion rituals upon arrival in Israel. In recent years, Ethiopians, particularly in the second generation, have taken to street protests.
I think what we are looking here today is thousands of Ethiopians saying here for the Israeli society, not for the discrimination, not for racism. All of us, we came here to Israel to be equal with the Israeli society.
The Ethiopian Jewish tradition dates back hundreds of years, many believe more than 2,000 years.
The origin of Ethiopian Jews dates back to biblical times, when the Queen of Sheba, or Magda, first went to visit King Solomon, and she returned bearing a child conceived during this visit. The young prince, later King Melech, went to Israel to meet his father when he was 20, and he returned to Ethiopia, accompanied by 1,000 members from each of the tribes of Israel.
Other migrations followed from ancient Israel, he says, but this account has a number of skeptics.
It's more of a legend than historical truth.
Getachew Haile, a religion historian now in Minnesota, says there's no evidence of any trail linking Ethiopia directly with ancient Israel.
We have Greek inscriptions, Arabic inscriptions. There is nothing of the sort of Jewish Hebrew inscription.
More likely, he says, Jews came here from the Arabian Peninsula or Yemen centuries later and settled amid certain isolated populations, helping convert them from the Orthodox Christianity that predominated.
One possibility is that this is a theory that some people might have migrated from over the Red Sea, coming to Ethiopia and converted them. The other is within the Ethiopian community, within the Christian community, who rejected Christianity.
Through the ages, he says, some Ethiopian kings enforced a rigid conformance to Orthodox Christianity. Those outside this system, called falasha or foreigners, have been marginalized.
They are considered outcasts, and I have no doubt that they have been treated like that within the Ethiopian Christians.
Thanks in large part to this persecution, the so-called falasha became Ethiopia's poorest people, and this has complicated the transition for many who went to Israel from medieval poverty to a first-world economy. Still, for the Ethiopians, it's a huge improvement in the standard of living. Mengistu Kebede, who returned to Addis Ababa on vacation recently to visit family, gave us some perspective. It was difficult to adjust to life in Israel, he says, but well worth it.
It's significantly better. Everybody wears shoes, they get enough pay for work, their clothes are nice. Everything is much better.
As part of earlier groups who were airlifted amid Ethiopia's famine and civil war in the 1980s and 90s, Kebede received a relatively warm welcome under Israel's law of return. Today, however, the issue of economic motivation has clouded the politics of migration.
I understand that there's a perception that people coming from poor countries, from Africa, are coming for the economic benefits. But the issue is, it's the national law of Israel, as well as the religious law, to allow all Jews to return to Israel. It's what God promised. As far as we know, all who have applied are bona fide Jews, and while there are advantages, the true motivation is a religious one.
Amid the social, political, and economic challenges involving Ethiopian migration, Israel's government has restricted the number it will allow in. In 2010, the government, in a move that it said should absorb all remaining Jews in Ethiopia, authorized visas for 8,000 new migrants. They'll be allowed in phases through 2016. Most of these worshippers did not make the cut. Deliverance to the promised land for these people, whose numbers are estimated in the low thousands, could take years if it happens at all. For Religion and Ethics Newsweekly, this is Sam Lazaro in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.